Julie here with Just Plain Fun, and today I'm going to show you how to make this Courthouse Steps block. And it's going to be done in the quilt as you piece method. And if you don't know what the quilt as you piece method, I have filmed a video on the basic concepts and how they're constructed. And it's the 5-strip rail fence block that I did previously, just before this one. And this is that block. This video explains everything about the concept, how to do it, and basically in a nutshell, each of these fabric strips has its own batting strip inside, and they're put together. They're zigzagged on the inside so that they stay together, and basically the pattern on the back side is the same as the front side, and then you do your quilting as you add each piece. You don't have to. You can wait until the end and do a quilting design that you want, like pre-motion quilting or something like that. This particular one is just a miniature size. I just wanted to show you what I'm going to be making, but it will end up being the same size as this one. It'll be a 10-inch block. And yes, I decided today, I didn't know this yesterday or previously when I was making this block, I'm going to be doing a mystery quilt. Basically what I'm doing is I'm making a whole bunch of these blocks, and at some point I'll probably end up mixing up colors and fabrics, but right now I'm going to do all I can to use the 2.5-inch strips that I have. These are some of them, and I have this all ready to go. And these are more out of that collection that I have, the same packages. So once those are gone, I'll switch to another set of fabrics. Most of the blocks in the quilt, or maybe half of them, will be based on 2.5-inch strips. But I will deviate from that because I'm making a sampler quilt. It will have 30 blocks. And my real challenge on this, instead of what I talked about on the previous video, the real challenge will be to see how many blocks I can make with this method, basically. There are some blocks that are definitely not suitable for this method, but a lot of them can be adapted. So basically what the idea here is, you have the same design on the back as you do on the front, just like this one. And this one was done with crumbs. These were actual individual little pieces, and the pieces, the batting pieces are actual individual little batting pieces. So you can use your smallest scraps of batting. This block proves it. And this one I did not bother zigzagging, but I should have. But it's not necessary. I can feel that it's going to be just fine. But I really love using liquid glue as well as glue stick to glue my fabrics to the batting. And so let me show you the order in which you're going to be building the Courthouse Steps block. Okay, so first off, you want to make sure that you have all of your fabrics set and ready to go. The handout will be for paid members of my website at Just Plain Fun at jpfun.com. I will provide a link in the description below, and so I'm not going to give you the measurements. Basically, you can probably figure it out. If you're a quilter, you can figure it out. But basically, the finished block will be a 10-inch block, and we'll start from the center and work our way out. So we'll do this block first, then then these two, then these two, and then these, and then these. And the handout will basically show you what order to put these together. But if you really want to know the concept and how to do the way I'm doing the piecing, go ahead and get the free download of the rail fence block that I showed you, because that is completely free. It teaches you the concept and how to do it. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to prepare this one. Basically what you do, see, it's all set and ready to go. I need to glue this to this, and glue this side to this, quilt it, put a running stitch around the outer perimeter about 1/8 of an inch in. But before I do that, and after I glue it, I'm going to go ahead and trim it up to actually 2.5 by 2.5, because that's what this is. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to give any measurements, but in this case, that's all I'm going to say. And basically I'm going to trim it down to size. That's what I really should have said. But anyway, oh yeah, to become a member, it doesn't necessarily actually cost anything unless you want access to everything without having to use points. And I explained that in the previous video, so go ahead and watch that one and you'll see how that works. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and prepare this one. Just get it ready. I'm going to do a little bit of ironing on it, and well, let me see. I'll pull this away and I'll show you how I do this. I'm going to need my iron. Just plug that in. Okay, I did not prepare very well. I will be right back. Before I go and continue on with this, I want to show you what batting I'm using. I am using batting that is on a roll. This is Katahdin. I believe it's Katahdin for jelly roll rugs. And this is made in a company in Maine. They make batting. They also have big sheets of batting, you know, like king size, queen size. You know, they make regular size battings. And I was able to find a 2.5 inch roll and a 2 1/4 inch roll for width. See, these are different. Okay, so this is what I'm using to fill this quilt for batting. It's what I'm using for my batting. And as we get into further on down the road with more blocks, I will deviate from using those strips, and I'll open up the big sheet of batting for the pieces I need. Okay, so I'm going to set the batting aside. I'm going to iron these flat. And I'm going to try to make this video a little shorter than the last one. The last one was just over an hour. So that's why I've already pre-cut all these. And get my glue stick. And I like to use the glue stick on the fabric. Sometimes I put it on the batting as well, which is okay. It's just that it puts fuzzy stuff on your glue. Okay, then, now this particular square, this is actually a square. It's a piece from that 2.5 inch wide batting. All right, so I'm going to try to somewhat center it and flip it over, iron it down to set it. All right, flip it over, and I'll put glue on the side. This really is the way I make my quilts, unless I want to do applique. Then I'll do the quilt as you go. I have made quilts in the traditional way, where you make the top, you make the bottom, or you have a bottom, and you layer it, you know, like your sandwich. And I'm still working on one that I started back in 1997. I'm hand quilting it. So I pull that out every once in a while when I want to do something a little different and a little bit more, you know, therapeutic. Okay, so this one is ready to go to the machine and ready to do a little bit of quilting and do my little thingy here after I get it trimmed up. And the way I'm going to trim this one up is I have these really cool templates, and I'm just going to use this to go around and trim off my fabric pieces. I could have been more careful, and I could have made sure that all three pieces, all three layers were exactly the same, but I didn't do that. So I'll be right back. Done with the quilting. And that's it for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim these off. And I'll just use this. It's going to take me just a moment here. Yes, I also have a rotating cutting mat, but I decided to use this today. And I'm just lining up the edge of my batting to the edge of this little template here. Grab my cutting tool here and just cut. Just making sure that it's the same size as this little template. Okay, so now I'm ready for the next step. And I should have my little thread bucket here. Okay, so the next step is, and that's what makes this so fun to do, is let me grab my pieces here. Okay, so the next pieces I'm going to do are these. So I'm just going to pull them off the board for now. Put one on either side of my work. Not that it matters. All right, so what I'm going to do in this case is I could actually go ahead and put these on wherever I want them to be. It depends on which direction I want my quilting lines to go, and these are 1 inch apart down the center. And I didn't show you that on camera. I'm just trying to save me some time. So I can choose whether to put it here, or I could choose to do it right here. One thing I'm going to do now that I've trimmed it up, I'm going to go ahead and run my stay stitching all the way around. Okay, so I decided that I want my quilting stitches to go perpendicular to the next strips, because on these the quilting lines will be going this way, so I want these this way. So that way, when I add these on to both sides, these will go this way. So, but for now, actually, no, I think I'm just going to go ahead and continue doing it this way. It'll be fine. Okay, so, but before I do the batting, I'm going to do these pieces here, and I need to give them a good press because they're all wrinkled. All right. They're wrinkled from being in the package for so long. Nothing more than that. Okay, and the way I do this, I'll try to zip through this because you can re-watch. And I'm going to go ahead and glue. I've got liquid glue here somewhere. Where did I put that? There we go. Okay, this is Elmer's school glue put into a dispenser. So the next step, what you do is, I want blues on one side. So, and I want to make sure that it's lined up well. So I just put the dots on. And that's a little bit too much. And what you can do when that happens is you go ahead and squeeze it out and clean up the mess. And you press it. Then you're going to turn it over and you're going to put this fabric on the back side. And this shifted. I didn't leave it on long enough. Okay, that should do it. Okay, then you flip it over and you're going to glue it to this side. About 1 inch apart or so. All right, then you put this one on there and you're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance like you normally would in any normal quilting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is done. I just need to set the seam. Then the next step is to go ahead and, before I do this, well, actually you want to loosen up the glue a little bit. Flip it over, do the same thing. Okay, then you're going to zigzag one of the pieces of batting on and make sure this batting is 1/4 of an inch smaller than it is wide. So you want to make sure that you get the right size, add it on. And normally I would have made this a little bit longer because it will shift a little bit, but I'm going to do what I can to make sure that that does not shift. I'll be right back and do a zigzag down here. All right, so if you look carefully, you can see that it did shift a little bit. So when you actually do put these on, you want to make sure that if you cut it to the exact same size, pull this up just a touch, not even an eighth of an inch, and just hang on to it for dear life. Okay, so the next step is to go ahead and cover up the batting like this. So I'm going to go ahead and press that in place, and you also want to glue it in place, but I like to press it first. And my batting shifted so little that it'll compensate itself over time, you know, over the next few steps. So I'm going to go ahead and do the glue, and I like to use the glue stick for this part. Very simple. And you heat set it. Flip it over. And because I, you know, did the zigzag, the batting will stay in place. But I'm still going to do the quilting stitches. Okay, so I'm going to go put my quilting lines in. Actually, I'll wait until both sides are on, and I am just going to rush through this. Okay, so I made a mistake, but I'm going to keep it in. All right, so from here on out, I am going to speed through this. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do my quilting like I did here. I'm going to do that here and here and here and there. So basically I start from 1/2 inch from here, 1 inch, and then I do my stay stitching, 1/2 inch here, 1 inch, and stay stitching. I'm going to do both ends and be right back. Okay, so before I go ahead and actually do the quilting, I'm going to mark where I'm going to quilt. And I use this ruler to get my measurements in. And I had mentioned a half an inch from the seam line. So I'll do one here, and then 1 inch from there. And I'm not going to bother with a line. Well, maybe I should. Okay, and then it's going to be 5/8 of an inch. See, I wanted to make sure that I have 2 1/4 inches from here, and I didn't do that. So let's go check that now. 2 1/4. That's close enough. That will be my cutting line. So I'm going to back it off. There's my 1/8 inch. And I'll draw my 1/8 inch. And that's where I'm going to do my stay stitching. And then I'm also going to do stay stitching along the sides here, like there is already here. So what I'll do for my stay stitching is I'll start from here, go up and around, and go down. So let me go ahead and measure this side. And this is an air-soluble pen that I'm using to draw my lines. So over time, it will disappear. If you don't put enough, it could disappear in about 5 minutes. But if you put not enough, I mean, if you do only one little swipe like that, it'll go away within a few minutes. But if you put several lines several times, it'll last a little longer, maybe even a day. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 2 1/4 right there, see? And then I'm going to back it off down to my 1/8 inch, and I'm going to draw that line where I need that 1/8 inch to be. And then I am going to go to the sewing machine, do all my quilting lines. I'm going to do the quilting lines first, here and here, and then I am going to do my stay stitching from here all the way around, and then from here all the way around, and I'll be right back. Stay stitching is done, and the quilting is done, so on to the next step, which is trimming this off, because that's where I'm going to be joining the next ones, the next pieces of fabric. And because I made this mistake where we've got blue here and colorful here, I think I'm going to go ahead and switch things up on my next fabrics, because I have this and I have this for my next ones. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch them up, just to make it look like it was meant to be that way. Put one on this side and put one on this side. So I think that'll work. So it'll be all mixed up, which I think will be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that on my board here. Flip that on my board. So that way it looks like it was planned that way. And then I'll do that with this one. And I think I'll do that with this one. So that way, if I laid this out correctly, we'll do the blues on this side. And, we got this came in the blue package, and these came together also. So I think that's the way I'm going to do it. Sort of like a log cabin, but not really. So this is the new setup for the new fabrics, and hopefully I can remember this. I'll probably make another mistake. But anyway, the next step is to trim this one up. Okay. And I need it to be the measurement that it's supposed to be, or really, really close to it. And you'll probably see what it is as I do it. But basically, I'm getting rid of all this stuff. So, yeah, as long as I'm within a 1/16 of an inch of the measurement it's supposed to be, I think I'll be good. And I'm going to use the weight so it will hold it down. There's a reason why I use the weight. And a long time ago, I also make paper beads, and I would stretch this one out so much that I ended up doing some damage in here. So I use a weight to keep my rotary cutter in place, my ruler in place, so that I don't hurt my hand again. That's the main reason. And I will provide a link on my website, an affiliate link to Amazon, where I got this. It really has saved my hands a lot of pain. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, see, I'm a little off right here. Well, I'll compensate for that when I have to. Okay, let's get that there. Yeah, if you're following along and you're trying to figure out the measurements, great, that's okay. Because basically this particular pattern is for paid members, but because I'm doing the video, of course, if anyone can figure it out, fine. I'm not gonna, it's no big deal. Let's see. Plus, if you do sign up, you'll get access to all of the stuff that I have on the website right now. Everything that I've posted since 1997 with regards to crocheting, paper bead making, and now sewing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get the next step started, which is basically a repeat of what I just did with these. I'm going to do that with the next ones, and I'm just going to speed through that. Okay, so if you notice that this piece is longer than it has to be, and I did that on purpose, just so that I know that it's long enough, and so when I go to trim this edges up to the right size, it'll be where it needs to be. And so I did that on purpose. In fact, I believe I did the batting slightly longer as well. Yes, I did, because of the zigzag issue. So that's why it's longer. Okay, so I've gotten both of those on, and now it's time to do the zigzags. So basically it's going to go here and on this side as well. So I will get that done and be right back. Okay, so I've gotten this zigzag on, and as you can see, it shifted quite a bit. It's a good reason why, to make sure that I make these pieces longer, because when I do this, if you see the line up, it lines up perfectly. It's going to line up fine, and I'll be able to trim it down. So the next step is to, because this has already been pressed, all I have to do is add glue to this and stick it down. So I'm going to speed through this next step on both sides because both sides are stitched. So I'm going to speed through it. Okay, so I've gotten that done, and the next step is going ahead and doing the quilting lines. And I'm going to speed through that also. I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible. All stitched. Okay, so this is ready to go. It's ready to be trimmed to its correct size. At this point, it needs to be a square, and we're not done yet. But I do need to make sure that I trim up the next section that's going to get more strips on it, and that means I'm going to trim up this side and this side, and then I'll be able to move on to the next step. I'm also going to go ahead and trim both sides, and I'm going to be using a special little cutting tool or cutting guide that I have. I've got this, and so I'm just going to line it up so that I can see it. Make sure I have as much of it as I can get caught on it. And yeah, I'm a little off, but I think I'll be okay when it comes to the big picture of, you know, I think I'll be able to catch that seam in there. Yeah, it's a little funky. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So this is going to be the correct size. It's slightly off, but that's okay. That's what this thing is for. This cutting template. So I'm not affiliated with this company at all, but as you can see, it's really easy to use. Let me grab my rotary cutter right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this up. And, you know, with quilting, it's a little bit, you know, forgivable. Any place that's a little short, I can compensate for that, because it's not perfect around the edges, but we're close enough. So the next step is to add the pieces that go across here and here. So let me clean up my mess here. I'm going to bring out my fabrics that I need. All right, so this is what we've done right here. So this one's done and this one's done, so we need to add these two pieces. And I have it oriented correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed through this next part. I'm going to add these fabrics and these fabrics to these sides here, and then they will get glued and stitched, and I'll speed through that process so you can actually see me do it, but it will be faster. Okay, so it's all glued and ready to be stitched, and I'll do that and be right back. Okay, so it is stitched, and I'm going to go ahead and do my tugging, and I'll speed through that. Okay, it's been zigzagged here and here, and now it's time to flip and glue. So let's get that going, and I'm going to speed through that. Okay, so the next step is to trim these edges off. So I'm going to do that right here. It's going to take me just a moment. And I'm not going to worry about the width because we've already cut and trimmed earlier. Let's get my weight over here. Got to do this in order to be able to add the next pieces. Flip it over. Actually, I should have done the quilting first, but I'll do that next. Okay, so the quilting happens the same way I did this over here. I got to do that to this and up this. Up this. Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm going to speed through that. Okay, so it's been stitched, and it's got the quilting stitches on it, and the next step is to add the next fabrics. So let's grab those. I'm going to need this. Okay, we have this, and we have this. So I'm going to go ahead and just do what I have to do online. Yeah, okay, do what I have to do, and I'm going to go through it fast, just like I did before. Okay, so that's glued up, and now I'm going to take it to the machine and stitch here and stitch here 1/4 of an inch. Okay, it's been stitched, and now we've got to do the tug and flip. Let's just do that quickly here. It'll only take me a minute. We're on the home stretch. This is basically it, because the next step is to zigzag on the batting. And then get that glued down. So I just thought I'd do this while I'm talking to you. You can get this pattern at jpfun.com, and it's not free, of course, but if you're a paid member, you have access for nothing at the gold level, and if you're at the registered bronze or silver level, then you can have access to it for 20,000 points. You'll get all the measurements and the materials that you need, basically, with that. Okay. And I'll be making more blocks. I've got quite a few coming up, and some of them I'm creating on my own, and some will be traditional blocks like log cabins, and I've got a few others. But I probably will deviate from my plan of using just this fabric, because I have a lot of yardage also. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and get this zigzagged. Turn this over here. Okay, what I mean by zigzagged, I'm going to be doing this and putting that on there, and then it will be one more trim after that. You know, we'll glue it back down. We'll do the zigzag stitching next, and then after that we'll flip it back over and glue it all down, and then I'll go over it with my quilting, and then we'll trim it up to the final size, and they're all going to be 10 inches. Okay, so I'll be right back right after this. Okay, the zigzags are done, and just so you can actually see it, well, it's hard to see, but they are done. They're on there. All right, so the next step is to do this and glue them down, so let's take care of that. All right, so I've been using this glue stick a long time. It's starting to get a little low, but I've gone through a lot of gluing with this, so it really doesn't take a whole lot. Probably one glue stick for every, oh, I don't know, 10 blocks maybe, because I've done other projects with this particular glue stick. I bought a dozen of these glue sticks, maybe a little more, and I have 2 of them that I've been using, and that's it. You know, since I've had them for a year. Well, of course, I haven't been sewing that whole year, but a little goes a long way, basically. That's all what I'm trying to say. Whew. All right, this time I'm not going to trim before I do my quilting stitches. I'm going to do the quilting stitches first. And the glue does make a difference. It makes it so you don't need to use a walking foot. I have tried it without the glue, and it puckers and it waves. Not really puckers, but it waves and distorts. So I use the glue so that it won't do that, and it does not do that. All right, one more side here. The glue really makes a difference. And I do have fusible batting too, and perhaps in one of my future quilt projects I will use that. But for now, I'm happy with what I've got. Fusible batting is kind of a pain in the butt to use because you have to pull it all apart. Okay, you know, unwind it, and it's hard to work with. I prefer the glue stick and batting that's not fusible. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and speed up this next process of just marking my quilting lines, and so I'll get to that. Okay, so now I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and do my quilting lines. And as a reminder, I set the stitch length at 3.0, and I'm going to be stitching just on these lines here, and I will probably do some stay stitching here and here also, and then I'll do the stitching lines on this one as well, and the stay stitching. So I'll be right back. Okay, it's been stitched, and now I'm ready to do a final press and then a trim down to the 10.5 inches that it needs to be. So yeah, I just want to set my seams, no big deal. Okay, so away with this, and I'm going to use my rotating mat for this and my 10.5 inch ruler. Okay, let's see how this looks. Well, my fabrics are just about dead on. That's really good. There's not much room for error here. Looks pretty good to me. That one looks like it might be a little bit close. So I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and put my weight on it. Get this stuff out of the way. And do my final trim up. Okay, here we go. Let me double check all the way around. Looks good. I think we're good. Okay, let's start from here. Okay, the weight is a really, really good thing. I already explained it. Oh boy. Okay. We're okay. That was close. I'm not pushing down on it that much. If I push down on it too hard, it actually could move. Okay, now it's all trimmed. We are done with this block for now. And it happens to be exactly the same on both sides. So watch for the next one. I'm thinking the next one's going to be a corner log cabin. And thank you for watching. And go ahead and go to jpfun.com and look for this pattern. Become a member. It's free if you don't want to have to bother paying for it. But it is, you do get points, 50,000 points when you sign up. So you could actually get 2 patterns for that if you don't ever care to accumulate your points. It does, all the instructions and the levels and stuff are there on the website in the members area. Just go ahead and take a look. If you don't want to bother with points and you want to sign up and have access no matter when you want, you know, whenever you want, and have access to the crocheting, the paper bead making, the other crafts that I do, the quilting that I'm starting, then it's $95 forever, or $8.95 a month for 12 months. Okay, and until next time, thank you and have a great day. Goodbye.